Hi, this is Amira and Rayah and Misty, and we're back talking about self-compassion today, the book by Kristen Neff called Self-Compassion. And Amira is going to start us off with a mindfulness exercise.
Cool. Thank you. I'm really happy to be here, everybody. I just want us to kind of put our intention in the forefront of our mind right now, just being here today. Whenever you're watching, if it's at night, no matter what time of the day it is, what is your intention? Like, what is your heart's purpose that you would like to be here? And then once you have that intention in mind, I just offer you to go ahead and close your eyes if you'd like. And just breathe regular. I just want to lend my gratitude, my sincere gratitude from the three of us that you're here today. And this is a safe space. You are loved. You are adored. This is a judgment-free zone. And as we breathe together, I just want to remind everyone that this is about learning how to build the muscle of self-love. There's no wrong question, no wrong answer. We're here together. All right, go ahead and open your eyes when you're ready. Okay, first question we have is, what's self-compassion? So we're just gonna do like a roundtable discussion about what our own definitions are of self-compassion. So Rhea, would you like to go first?
Sure. So for me, self-compassion is self-love, but it's not just about, that feeling of affection. It's about looking at yourself clearly and accepting the things that you think are flaws or that maybe you feel less than about, and looking at those with grace and compassion. Obviously, compassion can't be in the definition of the word self compassion. That's silly. But um, giving yourself grace and realizing, that we're all human and accepting that humanity and that imperfections are a part of that. We're not machines, and that's totally normal and okay. So it's really about just accepting that and seeing yourself clearly.
Awesome. Misty, do you want to go?
Yeah, I love that definition, Rhea, and just that feeling kind of towards ourselves of accepting what we know is not like maybe our ideal, um, and speaking to that part and saying it's okay, it's all right that you're not perfect, that you make mistakes, and self compassion is the voice in our heads that encourages and provides love and care.
Yeah. Self-compassion for me is pretty much a mix of both everything both of you said. Um, it's just loving myself even at my low times. It's just being aware of my body, how I feel, and just loving myself through it. That's what it means for me. Um, yeah. And I need to put my pronouns in the chat, but my pronouns are she, her.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think one of the things that gets confusing about self compassion is a lot of times people might hear it and think that we're talking about self care or self love, which are involved, but maybe don't quite go to the depths of it. A lot of times self care is kind of surface or like physical, or maybe we're just like, oh, well, I'm going to take a break, which a break can be part of self compassion, but self compassion also has like that deeper work of like nurturing yourself too. I think it's that nurturing quality.
Yeah. And it's doing it even in like the bad moments. Usually self-care, it's like when I'm feeling really good, I'm gonna go have a spa day. I'm gonna do self-care today and go hiking. And like it's when you're having that really, really bad day. Misty, you're gonna say something.
Well, I was thinking of, yeah, the hiking and the spa day. You can be doing that self-care and still have a negative track in your brain of what you're doing wrong and criticizing yourself and things. And so that's where self-care is kind of this action that we take, but self-compassion is an internal thing. And I know that Kristen Neff says self-compassion is compassion turned inward, which for some reason all of us are able, not all of us, I guess, but most of us are able to give compassion to others around us, but not so much for ourselves.
Yeah. Agreed. One of the bullets that we had talked about that you had actually brought up, Misty. Did you want to go over those?
Sure, yeah, we can read. If you have it handy, go ahead and read it.
Okay.
While I get there.
Okay. If it's in the workbook, it's the page 30. And it says the yin of self-compassion involves being with ourselves in an accepting way, comforting, soothing, and validating our pain. The yang of self-compassion involves action to alleviate our suffering, protecting, providing, and motivating ourselves when needed.
So back to that spa day example of you go to the spa, but we're talking about there's another component of compassion where you're doing something to truly take care of yourself, protect yourself, provide for yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And for me, it just took a really long time to figure out that most of my pain and discomfort was coming from what I was saying to myself. And the one exercise that I did probably like 4 years ago that really knocked me on my butt was I was told by a mindfulness coach to go 7 days without complaining. And if I messed up and complained, whether it be to myself or out loud, I had to start back at day 1. And I was like, at first I was like, oh my gosh, it's going to be so easy. No, I was like, holy cow. Because I really thought I was like the positive person back then, and I just realized like, whoa, I'm hella rude to myself. Like I don't even think I got past like day 2 because I kept having to go back because I was like, dang it, I just said it, like it was it was constant. That was the one thing that made me like, wow, like I really,
That's an amazing exercise. I can't imagine. How long did it end up taking you?
I mean, well after this, I worked with this person for 3 months, and it took me well after the work with him to even get to that point where I could even notice it, and that just goes to tell you too, when you're doing this type of work, you have to keep doing the work until you get there. It took me well after. There was a situation right as I was ending my time with him where I got a soul sister tattoo with the people we were living with, and the relationship ended bad, and I was in this 3-month thing with him while I was going through this, which saved my life, I think. I was hardcore the check-a-chick queen back then. And when I was moving out, I said, it was our last meeting together, and he said, I'll see you in 30 days. We'll touch base. And I was like, the first thing I'm doing is getting my tattoo covered because I had a soul sister tattoo. And he goes, do me a favor and just wait. I'm like, okay, I'll wait. I ended up waiting like 6 months because I really started to learn, like, you don't have to react to everything that's happening to you, right? I was telling myself, I have to get this thing off of me because we're not really sisters. It was a fake relationship. I just need it off my body. But that's me adding all that crap in there. It's It's a tattoo. I don't have to look at it like, I don't want to look at it like that. I ended up getting it covered eventually. This flower one right here. But I still did it in a way where I knew in my heart it wasn't out of malice. I wasn't angry. I don't want it there. So yeah, the way we think about things completely changes our reality. Definitely. Is there any other of the bullet points? I want to see if this. Okay, another thing about self-compassion, I think people get confused is they take it for you're thinking you're better than, like you think you're better than everybody else, that you like love yourself so much. This bullet says self-compassion is not selfish or self-centered. It gives us the emotional resources needed to care for others. Yeah, that's under the common myths about self-compassion. And it's not a form of self-pity. It allows us to see the interconnected experiences of self and others without agitation. Yeah. Has anything happened this week for either one of y'all that just you really had to give yourself extra attention and time?
Yeah, well, I mean, I have rejection sensitive dysphoria, which is attached to my ADHD. Um, and I was thinking about this already, like, because what you were talking about with the internal dialogue is what makes the suffering so much worse, you know? So, like, with rejection sensitive dysphoria, it's not like anytime you get rejected, you're just like devastated. It's usually like specific types of triggers and things, or at least for me, that's the way it is. Uh, but when it gets triggered, it's like a panic attack of pathetic and like just feeling worthless and all of that stuff. And so it's like the extreme version of that negative self-talk and stuff too, because it's like something could happen, and just because of the way that it triggers me, it's like, oh well, that didn't just happen, it's because I'm worthless and I'm horrible and I'm bad and I don't deserve better, and this is all normal because I'm shit, you know, or whatever. And that is way worse. Like, that is astronomically worse usually than whatever it was that triggered the feeling in the first place. But it's definitely, you know, the self compassion still helps me, even though I like, because I'm gonna have that trigger probably always. Like, I'll probably always deal with that, at least to a small degree. Like, there'll be times where I get triggered and just it just kind of wants to go out of control. But if I know that I have it, I can also be compassionate and kind of step outside myself and be like, yep, this fucking really hurts right now, and we can bleep that out. Sorry, this really hurts right now, and that's okay. Like, you have a condition that makes it hurt worse, and you know, if you need to go scream about it, or not that I scream, but like, if you need to like feel things really hard for a little bit while this hurts, like, just feel it, and then you can like let it go and process it and move on. Like, just giving myself grace for when those times do get triggered, that like it's okay. Like, and I also know that I have those triggers. So I don't even necessarily like blame the person that did it. I'm like, I know that's not their fault. Like, they can't, like, people can't, I don't expect anyone to be perfect around me, or to never say anything, or to never correct me, or to never like have anything negative to say about me. So like, I know that for other people, and I don't expect them to be perfect. But then it's like, so when I get triggered, I have to give myself that grace and self compassion of like, okay, it's just something that happens to me sometimes, and it's okay. Ride the waves out and process it and get through it.
That's good. I'm proud of you. It's that
Thanks.
that radical acceptance, you know, like we need to get to a place where we accept who we are, flaws and all, so that we know how to move through it. Like, I've had so many people really worried about me, you know, lately with the whole Black Lives Matter, George Floyd murder situation. It makes it really hard to make people understand I'm okay, but I also am okay with my emotions. I'm okay that I'm pissed off. I have a right to be mad. A lot of people that I loved are no longer in my life. And a lot of people that I loved chose to walk away because of the discomfort of the conversation rather than love me, and I'm pissed. Okay. And I'm in a place where I used to love white people so much, like that was my comfort. And now I'm frustrated and scared of white people. I'm going through those things. I'm radically aware of what's happening in my life. I have a therapist right now. Before this current therapist, I didn't have a therapist for like 2 years because I didn't feel like I needed one because I have other things in place that help me. However, right now I need one. I'm fully aware. So even when people see me on my personal page crying, mad, upset, I'm paying attention to my body. I haven't cussed anybody out. I haven't said anything disrespectful to anybody. I haven't physically hurt anyone. I'm also not talking shit to myself about how I feel. I'm not saying that I'm an idiot. I'm not saying that I'm stupid. I even people that don't relate to me right now, I can feel the silence and it feels like rejection. I'm still aware of that and I'm okay with it. And so, really radically accepting your flaws and the things that are going on for me has really helped. And also realizing people don't like to see people uncomfortable. And so, when people see me upset and angry and crying, they're like, oh, we just need to fix that. You need to do something else needs to happen. What's going on with you? It's like I'm okay seeing, and I kind of have that mama bear thing where I don't want to see people cry or get upset. But that kind of stuff is my own ego thinking I can fix or save everyone because I can't. So, yeah. So as far as race goes, how can you guys relate being anti-racist or trying to get there or not being anti-racist? How does that play with self-compassion?
I think it's a big thing because there's that radical acceptance and like not that we should be like giving ourselves a big free pass, but I know that there are times where I'm going to make mistakes and I'm going to say something that is racist or that is ableist or just really not good, and I that doesn't make me worthless as a person. It doesn't mean I should quit or throw it all away or not keep going. Which is all my urges would be like, oh, I made a mistake. I need to just disappear and be done. Like, I need to fade into the wall.
It's
Like,
so true.
right? But self compassion's like, no, no, no. Like, yeah. Like, yes, you made the mistake, but you're human and you're in a process and you need to keep going. And that's okay because that's what life is like, like.
Yeah.
I had a revelation about a story that I tell that I thought was funny. And it's kind of twofold. So I lived in Romania for a while with a older lady. She was boarding me, and she would say, my son is in the United States, you should marry him, and wanted me to marry him and everything. Of course I said no, no, no. So I don't even know him. And then I had another time where I worked resettling refugees, and I was working with a Cuban family, and everybody had immigrated to the US except for the family's older son. And the Cuban dad was saying, I think that you should marry my son when he gets here. And same thing. And with that one, I was saying, oh, my Spanish isn't good enough. And he was like, oh, no, no, it's good enough. It's good enough. And so I've thought about those as funny stories for a while. And I think there is some humor in it. But I also recently I took a step back and I thought, what is it that these two parents see the power of my citizenship, and without their
Mm-hmm.
kids even knowing me, they're wanting them to marry me, and that there's a power there, that a privilege I had never really thought of. And I have told that story I don't even know how many times, just as kind of a lighthearted, like, isn't that so silly, they wanted me to marry their sons. Um, yeah, and then just recently I realized, well, that was a stupid story to share because here I am flaunting my power and my privilege. So now where's the self-compassion come in?
Right? Just
You
like,
know,
did you catch what you said though?
say
You're
it
like,
back to
now
me.
my stupid self, why am I thinking of that stupid thing? It's like, well,
Yes, yes. And so I've spent time thinking like, yeah, how many times did I share that? And how many times were people listening going, oh my gosh, she's so oblivious and what a racist and
I know. I know.
self-compassion.
Hmm. That's a
Yeah.
good story. That's a really good story. Because even me, I thought it was cute until you just said that. I didn't correlate that at all. But then I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
if you're looking at it through eyes of an anti-racist, you're going to pick up on that because you learn that it's about, looking at your own stuff, looking at
Yeah.
privileges, because we all have them.
Yeah. And that's, the power of doing the work.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, I've been telling that story for, it's been like 15, 20 years, some of it. And I've been telling those stories, not even thinking about it until recently. So that's the power of doing the work.
Oh my gosh. I found a meme, Facebook has memories.
We've all been there.
It was from 7 years ago. And I said, it was a meme that said, Black people, stop blaming white people for all your problems. I just, yeah. And then and my comment was like, suck it up and like, do the work or like work hard or something. That was a doozy, right? Just repeating it, I'm like, it's like, God dang, right. Man.
Yes.
It's tough. Like that internalized racism and like the systemic racism goes deep. And, like we have a lot of dismantling to do. And I think that's part of the reason you even brought this book up because, yeah, there's a lot of work to be done, but like you're not going to get through it if you hate yourself through it either. Like you need to like be able to give yourself some grace. Otherwise, like it's impossible.
Yeah, because there were so many people like, you spend years knowing someone and their heart is like super pure and just loving, but you could see that this topic just completely ripped their spirit to shreds. And even though there was a lot of relationships that were gone in the very beginning when I was at my angriest, I still feel if they had more self-love, we would have got through that shit. Like, girl, I'm with you. This shit's hard. Let's cry together. I know you hate me right now, but we're gonna get through this shit. Oh, damn it.
There's going to be some bleeps coming, huh?
Self-compassion.
It's in the name of self-compassion.
It's a word from the Lord. It's fine.
We'll get there.
Well, Amir, what do you think as I'm reflecting on sharing that story and even being able to like bring it to like, this is live, we're going to publish this somewhere, and you shared a story of a shortcoming, and I don't know that I would have been able to share it without being able to accept myself at some level and be like, I'm human and I have work to do and I don't know everything.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I mean, the only thing you can do is when it's happening is to practice sitting with it. You're not going to ever get comfortable with being uncomfortable if you don't learn to sit with it. So even baby steps of you feel the feeling and you just sit with it. Give yourself 2 minutes and then go back to doing the unhealthy thing that makes you better, so you think. But just the longer you sit with it, and that's why I love mindfulness, because it just teaches you over and over to go back to the present moment over and over again. And it literally changes your brain pattern and it changes how you start to think and feel. So that's the best thing that I can say is every time it happens, you sit with it. Give yourself enough give yourself enough compassion to like just sit with the uncomfortableness for a minute. Like you can do it. Most of us can do it, unless there's some other type of element there that prohibits you, whether it be a mental health experience, whatever. You have to be comfortable sitting with it. And therapy, I'm a fan of therapy. If you need it and you can't get past it, some people could hire a mindfulness coach for a situation, like if they're working on their mindset, and they could be pointed out to a situation, and they pick up on it in 1 second. But some people need to do some real deep heart work. And that's hard because most of us are taught in every culture in some way, shape, or form that don't talk, not talking about our issue is better. Like, keep it in, suck it up. How many cultures have that kind of mentality that you just suck it up and deal with it? I say, love yourself through falling on your face and being a hot mess. Definitely.
Yeah, I think there's like that on the bottom of 24, she talks about the defensive posture stems from the natural desire to not be rejected and abandoned and makes sense in terms of our most basic survival instincts. And I think that is one of the big things that when it comes to shame and when it comes to like making mistakes and or being open about all these things is like we have to make sure that people know that we belong in the community because instinctively we know that community means safety because like we're biological creatures and we're really like we're pro-social animals. Like we know that there's safety in numbers. A human born alone, in the forest is not gonna come to the same place or be as safe or as well adjusted as somebody who was born into a village, like because you don't just learn all you need to know from nature. You learn from each other and from interacting and how to cope with the different situations. And then you have each other's backs and stuff. And so I think it's so hard because, like, a lot of the stuff we have to give ourselves self compassion about is things that we are just really afraid of being rejected over. And like realizing how much like we all have those things that we're terrified that if people find those out, those will be the things that exclude us from community or that'll be the final straw, I feel like. But like that's a natural thing. Like we all have that fear of rejection because it's like a survival instinct that keeps us on our toes about our own behavior.
Mm-hmm.
But we still have to give ourselves grace to
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Like this on page 19, like in the middle, it says, it's talking about, it says, so why we, I don't know what that word is, between self-serving distortions and ruthless self-criticism, because we want to feel safe. Our development, both as a species and as individuals, is predicted on basic survival instincts. And something to note too, to have a negative thought pattern is addictive, right? Whatever that thing is, whether it be you're a crier or a cusser or a this or a that, like that, how you handle conflict, how you handle anything like that becomes a habit and it becomes addictive. If you're somebody that had a lot of trauma and you were neglected, maybe your thing that you learn to make yourself feel better is getting lots of attention in different ways. That could be very unhealthy, but that is an addiction. You can't really help it. And once you sit and you're doing nothing and there's nothing to stress over, it's like that feeling gets almost panicky and you feel like, oh my God, I have to do something else to make myself feel that way. So just keeping that in mind, that how we are raised to think and how we begin to do things, it is addicting. And so to stop an addiction, you have to work at it.
That's such a great segue into chapter 2 because, she talks about remembering that the self critic plays a role and is serving a purpose in our lives and really its goal is to protect and care for us. It's not actually doing that, but that's the intention behind it. And so she makes that, comment about don't criticize your self criticism. Even having compassionate for that part of ourselves.
Yes, you have to. It's the only way to get through it. And Rayah had mentioned before how I kind of wanted to throw out this book club first, or I wanted to do this book club for that very reason. My intention was to move right into how to be an anti-racist after the me and white supremacy. But I did take a step back because I knew how much self-compassion I needed to give myself to not do my job at the church. It's all white people. And right now, I am feeling kind of unsafe around white people. So they feel my energy of like, yo, I don't feel safe right now. And so I had to really check myself and be very real about it. Understanding your own capacities. Right now, I can only handle so much being a Black woman, dealing with my own issues around realizing how I've contributed to my own everything, plus being a woman who is in this new position. And now I'm learning about tokenism and all these other things. And I'm like, whoa, if they're not doing the work, I'm out. I don't want to be the token Black chick. Oh my God, I'm the token Black chick. Oh heck no. So it's giving myself grace along with it all. You really have to give yourself grace through everything. You really do. you just have to, because if you don't, you're gonna like, it could have been really bad if I didn't have mindfulness under my belt. This whole, since I started August 15th, I think was my first day, it would have ended really bad. You know, at the same time, I was working another job, my night job. It was exactly the epitome of that Black woman going into a workforce syndrome, where the Black woman is introduced to the company to be this really amazing person with all of these great skills. And then once the Black woman or person of color start to speak about things they see that could be wrong, then they end up being villainized to be the bad one in the organization. And then woman of color exits the building. So I was also dealing with that and just seeing my own crap. I only have the capacity to deal with so much. So I had to make the decision to, right now, I can't be a part of any other groups outside of what's comforting, right? Because right now, as the only Black one doing the work, I feel right now, I need more support than that. So I had to get radical about what I needed so that I can be most effective for this role for myself. Because the reality is, I'm not going to stay anywhere that's not good for my mental health. So I had to really decide, um, what's my own baggage, what's my own crap to look at and fix, and what do I need to step up and say to the people around me to say what I need, right? But again, that all comes from totally loving myself, because I know what I'm worth, one, and I also know when I mess up and when I need to take a step back and like do something different. So, and all of those things, I love the shaduki out of myself. And it feels good to like be at a place that I never thought, if I go back to years ago, I never thought that I would be in a place where I'm like, I love myself like more than anybody else. Like I would be like, ah, that's funny that you think that you could ever get to that space, but you can. I really do feel I love myself more than anybody else. Ooh, you're muted.
There we go. Yeah, I'm working on that myself, and I actually did have an experience that I would say it's the first time I've ever come out of it this way. I had an interview and I didn't get the job. It was something internal in my company, and they came back and said, "Hey, you didn't get it. We'd like to give you lots of input, for next time and things like that." And I talked to a mentor and she was giving me advice about, go back and find out why you didn't get it and everything. And I said, I know that I did me. They didn't like me, and that's okay. And I'm just fine doing what I'm doing right now. I don't need to know any more about it. I know what they missed out on, but they got what they want, right? Yeah. And I'm moving on. And that I've never had that kind of reaction to something like that. I only kind of wanted the job, to be honest, before I interviewed for it. But usually with a rejection like that, I'd like double down and be like, okay, now I'm going to prove it. I should get this. I deserve this. And instead of just step back and go, yeah, wasn't right. Wasn't for me. I'm just fine. I'm going to keep going. That was really a big shift in my thinking.
That's cool. How recent was that?
A couple weeks ago.
Wow.
But I was just talking to my mentor on Monday because
Wow.
we hadn't had a chance to talk about it. And so I was filling her in, and it took a little while because she kind of was going that route with me too. Like, well, you got rejected, find out why, dig in. And I was like, I'm not going to spend any more time on that. I know what I want. I know who I am. I'm just going to keep moving forward.
That's right. Yes.
Oh.
See, tinglies in my face. That's awesome.
It's amazing.
Yeah, that's amazing. So do we have anything else that we wanted to touch on before we wrapped up today?
Well, I think this quote that she has, I didn't put the page, but it's still just so wonderful. Isn't it more interesting to revel in the full range of human experience rather than be labeled good? Instead of trying to control ourselves and our lives to obtain a perfectionistic ideal, why not embrace life as it is, both the light and the shadow? It's a lot more fun, a lot more exciting to embrace it all rather than just limit ourselves to this like concept and ideal of ourselves or the world.
And what another thing that I've realized in self-compassion is when you start to meet people that match your level of self-compassion, how much more love you feel when you're around those people. That is a big motivator for me too. To like, I wanna know people now that really like love themselves. They don't have to be like, but I mean, that really strive to figure out what they need to do to be the most healthy to themselves. Because
People that see the value in loving themselves, even if they're not there. Yes.
Totally. You want to get me hooked on you, that is the best way to do it, because that is my like love language on all levels, friendships, working relationships, like wanting to do so good for yourself first, and then that way you end up loving everybody else that much more. So we will have a separate video with the homework. That's how we will roll this week. Rayah and Misty, I appreciate you both greatly, and we will see all of you very soon.